what the Russians have showed us, whatever the sanctions were, you can get around it. For example, if Russia cannot send, I mean, this is not rocket science. If Russia cannot send oil or gas, and that's basically what Russia shipped to Western Europe. The energy basis of the so-called German miracle was, and I don't want to take it away from the Germans, they're an industrial people and a productive economy, but half of that is BS, and the other half is Russian oil and gas at ridiculously low prices that allowed German goods to compete in the world because they didn't have to pay for the oil and gas. So the big sanction that was going to bring Russia to its knees and bring the war victory to Ukraine was to say to the Russians, we won't buy your gas, we won't buy your oil, and to drive the point home, blow up that pipeline under the water in the North Sea there that we all, you know, our little James Bond adventure that we played out over there. All that the Russians did is two things. Number one, went to India, with whom they have a very good relationship, and the Indians buy virtually unlimited quantities of Russian oil. And at what price? Well, if they don't want to have a problem with the United States, they say $60 a barrel. Meanwhile, there's a $10 a barrel equivalent that is a new investment by India in Russian, who cares what it is. In other words, you get around it by having another invoice for the other $10 or the other $20 or the other 30. That's one way. Here's the second way. The cap, it doesn't apply if it's oil not from Russia. Okay, it's not so easy to tell where the oil comes from. So Russia ships the oil to, I'm going to pick a country. This is not a real story, just hypothetical. It ships it to Tanzania on the east coast of Africa. There the ship docks, pours the oil off the ship into a holding tank, and then 2 days later, a Greek ship arrives, takes the oil out of the tank, invoices the shipment of oil from Tanzania to Britain. Britain pays $80 to Tanzania. Tanzania turns around, takes a commission, and sends the rest of it back to Russia, which is where the oil came from. This, let me remind everyone, you know how they learned to do all this? Because the United States has had an embargo and sanctions against the little country of Cuba for 70 years. And Cuba has had to figure out every conceivable way to get around it. And what they've figured out, they have shared in a very comradely way with everybody else, the Iranians and the others. So by now, these sanctions, they must have parties in Moscow, you know, where they raise vodka for one another, laughing all the way to the bank as the United States goes through the theater of the sanctions, which are all supposed to have this terrible effect that we're still waiting to see.